I'll call this meeting to order at 10:02. We've got a bit of change in the room here. Clint was unavailable, so our alternate board member Nyberg is here for Clint. And just a reminder to our members at large, both board member Adam and board member Nyberg are available if you're unable to attend. So we can call them and call them in. So thanks, board member Nyberg, for making sure we had enough folks today. All right, a agenda has been circulated. Are there any additions?
Yeah, the addition of just the ASB PC provincial survey. Just a quick discussion on that.
Where would you like to put that? It's probably business arising, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, 8.4. Reminder regarding the ASB PC survey. Any other additions?
I'll give you a motion to approve as amended.
Got a motion? All in favor? Yeah, Lance, you in favor there, Lance?
Yes, but I'm trying to find the hand up button, but I couldn't really find it. So yes, in favor.
Okay, thank you. Board member Hunter, you were yes? Yeah. Okay, I missed it.
Oh.
I'm not that quick, I guess. All right. We've circulated some minutes. Just getting up my notes. Any concerns with the minutes as they're presented? If not, I'd entertain a motion there. Board member Brooks, all in favor? And we got a thumbs up. Carried, unanimous. Thank you. Reports. Rob, we can start with you. Floor is yours.
All right. Okay. Finally find it on the page here. Yeah, so we after our educational ag tour, we'd had some surveys and follows up with teachers and that as far as what we could change for next year. So we're hoping to adapt that a little bit and make it a little easier for everybody to get through the day. But all in all, it seemed like it was met with pretty positive results. So that should be coming to a close fairly soon on our planning for that. Weeds on well sites letters were sent out, as well as we attended webinars for information on that as well. We shared advocacy for the veterinary access through social media and those type of things. As well, the student loan forgiveness program, we shared that online, Facebook website, I believe, as well. What else we got here? I won't go through everything on the list here. We'll be here. There's quite a bit. Ongoing research into Bill 22, and we have a delegation today to kind of speak on behalf of what the SPCA is doing there. We attended the Wheatland County ASB tour, which there's a report following here in a sec. What else do we got? We've been working on a fair bit of beaver blockage and drainage issues. Obviously, we had a ton of rain or whatever, so we've been trying to work with some local trappers and knock down some of the population there. And I think we're getting ahead of it now. Obviously, the rain slowed down, but we're going to keep on efforts to control those populations. We did a tree planting project where I believe we planted about 700 or 800 trees for a producer here. So that was a good little project. Went fairly quick, and I think everybody was happy. Environmental farm plans. We have 9 so far to date. I think we have another couple more coming up here quite quickly. We finished our water sampling on Buffalo Lake. I believe the results were out for that, which was an interesting day to play out on the lake. I guess it was decent. Ag tank loader repairs. Everything seems to be up and running. Actually, all 3 are pretty decent. the monitoring systems and that, I'm hoping to be able to monitor from like August 1st to October 1st will be kind of our window. And then I've been logging the power meter as well. So once I kind of know how many cubes go through the meters or whatever, I'll be able to kind of backlog just based on our power and kind of see what our usage actually was throughout the season on all of those, because things did get a little bit delayed. As far as weed control, we completed spraying at Bridges Pit. There's still, it's never ending, right? There's always going to be little spots you go back to that stick out and highlight after everything else has kind of died. So they're actually out there this morning and again spraying at Storm and kind of circulating through as some of the gravel work and crushing and that is done. They'll be out working on those.
Can you get the crew to take another look at Bar Harbor? That's where we did that road construction. There seems to be some weeds in the ditches there.
Yeah. Yeah, we can definitely do that. And then, yeah, we completed the upper third of the county full passes with spraying, and now we've completed most of the center third, just touch-ups and things that were missed last year. So that stuff should be dying here fairly quick. And then we're moving on to some private land spraying. We've got 12 requests so far, and then we'll be working through the hamlets and transfer stations, things like that. Some of the spraying stuff's a few weeks behind as far as the small areas or whatever. So we're really struggling to get on those. So we haven't had rain, but now we have days of 27, 28 above. So they've been starting at 5 a.m. or whatever to get spraying. So we've trying to get at it. Then we've been doing a bit of work around the lake, weeds and things like that, working with the community to try and get that stuff cleaned up for them and help them so we're not putting unnecessary chemical in the water or whatever, and taking care of that. We had some MR locations as well that needed to be cleaned up. That was a few days work out there. And then we have our ongoing Weed Watch Wednesday campaign that we send out on Facebook or whatever, those types of things.
Can you speak to the AT contract a little bit?
I can, yeah. So it's $10,000, and for us that equates to about 3 days of work spraying. So we've kind of picked their targeted, worst areas, I guess, and we'll zip through and knock those off. It'll be over the next, I would say, 10 days is when we'll kind of fulfill that.
And which locations, sorry?
Well, that's like it's kind of spread out, like as
Okay.
far as like on their numbered highways or whatever. Like we kind of picked the key areas and discussed with Darcy and them what we would actually spray for them. It's not just like a blanket spray, because at $10,000 we'd be done in 15 minutes kind of thing.
So you, do I understand correctly that we identified the areas?
Yes, they brought
okay.
some to us as well, and then
Okay.
just like the communities mentions different areas, and then as we're out doing other projects, we've been noting them throughout the year, and there were some inspections done previous years as well, and so we just kind of accumulated all that data and just working from there. So
Thank you.
and then strychnine sales, we got 40 cases. We had 80 lottery draws, and there's 12 bottles in what was allotted to each producer. We had 62 producers receive product, so $13,640. So far, it's taken us 37.2, so say 40 hours of like staff time, kind of administering the sales, going through some training and those types of things. We did have some producers, just decline based on the time of year. They weren't going to bother taking it. We have 125. We actually have a few more now. I think we have 128 producers within the county that have taken their stewardship training certificates. And then we sat through another webinar with the province the other day to just bring up some changes and challenges that we've had with the program or whatever. But for the most part, it actually hasn't been too bad. It is quite labor intensive. Like our biggest concern right now is the actual uploading of the paperwork to the server that they have. Because right now we're sitting at just about 700 pages, and we've only made the first distribution, and every distribution will be the same. And so like when people come back and they have a second purchase and they have to log it, like it's equating to like it'll be thousands of pages of uploading documents to the server. And so I've put forward, like, why don't they randomly select 10, right? Like just a random sample or whatever it would be, so we don't have to upload thousands and thousands of pages. So they're hoping to remedy that. But right now the request is every page is uploaded to their server. So that'll definitely add to our time there. We had one presentation. We were requested to speak with the garden club, and there was 8 attendees or whatever. There it was on a Sunday or whatever, just about weeds and things like that. So took part in that. Parks mowing, that's actually been going fairly well. We've had to do some equipment changes and things like that, but for the most part, the guys are, getting after it. Considering all the rain and things, I think they've been doing a pretty good job.
Board member Hunter had a question.
Yep.
Rob, on that, did you get any answers on how we record carryover bottles?
Oh, that's a good question.
And second question is, how do we dispose of the bottles? Did you get that answered?
So the disposal thing is still an odd gray area, that they're supposed to be triple rinsed and disposed as you would normal containers, like chemical containers, but nobody's accepting them. So we're not, I'm assuming people might, like there really isn't a clear answer, because we can't take them back. And I know like UFAs and things like that, they don't want them. So I think right now it's like the people are just burning them is what I would think. And triple rinsing is their recommendation, because that's what you do with chemical, but they haven't really had a definitive, hey, this is where they're supposed to go.
So they're probably just going to end up for a landfill, aren't they?
I would say that's, I mean, if we're being honest, that's a potential for sure.
Board member Nyberg.
Well, it could have a twofold bonus, actually, if we did landfill them. Maybe don't triple rinse them, and then we wouldn't have a rat problem in our landfill sites. Just saying, might be an opportunity there as a helpful hint.
Board member Hunter had his first. What was your first question? Did he answer both?
I'll get.
Okay.
Yeah. So to answer your question about the carryover, we did talk to the province about changing the documentation, and they did. That was at our last meeting, that there is another box for. So if you use 0 this year and you have 12, you just put that in your file for the end of the year. You'll submit that, and then you'll have that 12 bottle carryover. So I just wanted it so that it was documented, so we weren't kind of in that gray area with product at home or whatever. So they did sort that out for us. Any questions on mowing or that, or is that?
I just was curious how much more we've had to do this year relative to previous years. If you've got a sense, I don't expect you were here last year, but have we had to double it?
Well, we are running more like mower capacity, right? Just because it has been raining, we are, for the most part, like there were times for like a week they would run 4 mowers last year, but we've been running basically 4 mowers the whole time to keep up with it. So you could say we've probably done a third more as far as, actual mowing time, but we've definitely got another half dozen rotations. It takes about a couple weeks to zip through it. So
I would also maybe add that the level of detail in the tracking you're seeing here, I don't think we've done in the past, so it would be harder to give you an objective answer.
yeah, and we're hoping at the end of the year there'll be some time tallies. Like this is sort of like old data a little bit, some of the numbers, but we'll actually have time tallies on what we put into pretty well each location. So because the way we log it now, it's like, on-site mowing and off-site or whatever. So we should have some pretty good information moving forward on what we're actually spending there and that. So make it a little easier to forecast that. As far as rentals, yeah, they're always kind of slow in and out, whatever. We've had the cattle scale go out 7 times, and the water pump, it's went out 4 times. I don't know that it went out really last year, but it's kind of been in demand the last couple of weeks, I guess. And then really upcoming events, we've got the Stettler County Fair from July 27th, August 1st. And that's kind of it for the admin side of things, unless there's any questions.
Board member Brooke.
I just had a question about spraying the gravel pits.
Yep.
Have you contemplated using a drone sprayer? Because some of those side hills can be pretty difficult.
Oh yeah, they're a challenge. And that's later. I'm gonna get if we do the demonstration, that guy's gonna spray some of them for us.
Oh, good.
So we'll see how that goes.
Thanks.
Any other questions of Rob? Board Member Nyberg?
Mr. Chair, we haven't got to page 12 yet, have we? The upcoming events. Back up. Just where was that? Coney asters were sprayed out or something? Whose herbicide? It was page 12. Right there, yeah. It's on 12 on mine, sorry. It says herbicide damage, but
Oh, that was on someone's property. They wanted us to see why their trees were dying. Like that was their own thing way set
Oh.
back, and they called us out over like they were worried they had tree disease or whatever. And
fair.
and that's what it ended up being. Yeah, that wasn't a. We should have maybe put a little more dialogue in that one. Yeah, it wasn't an oops on our behalf.
Okay, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
fair enough.
Good question for clarity, that's for sure. So yeah.
Any other questions of Rob? If not, if I could have someone accept his report for information. Board Member Brooke, all in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. The next item, 5.1, in the package, I had put in a tour report. I don't know if anyone has any questions of that report or the tour. Anything from Board Member Hunter about the tour and whether or not thought it was worthwhile?
No, I thought it was educational. Couple spots, but I mean, you're going to get that in it on any tour. But actually, the solar panels now were quite interesting.
There's no pictures because we weren't allowed to take
Oh,
pictures.
right. Yeah.
It's
But
it's
they-
a running substation, and Capital Power didn't want us taking pictures. Sorry. Board
No,
Member
it's just
Hunter.
what Al said earlier that, what is it, 40 megawatts those two stations could do?
I'd have to look, but yeah,
I
something.
think,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think they're running about 20. And Al said, that's not a very big area either, was it?
It'd be a quarter section, I think, probably
Is
altogether.
it that big?
For 40 megs, probably it would need.
But anyways, it's, he said the town of Stettler runs on about 6 to 7.
Yes.
So what they had there would run the 3 towns of Stettler. So that was pretty impressive.
So on that solar facility, did they have storage?
No, there's no
So
battery
zero
storage. They're where they're tied in there to the grid. Like there's lots of energy being used, I think, all the time, and so I could look, but even that day they were, if I remember the numbers right, it was 40 was total, but they were only selling 20 that day.
Yeah, no, I know some of the business models are definitely putting storage in so that it's
Mhm.
interesting because when you get to the market, there are times where the market is more lucrative to sell into. So if you can hit those markets and pull a trigger, you can actually do better. So they're
Yeah, there's probably I'll look here, but I think there's probably about 10 sites now that have battery.
The report's excellent. I'm not a sheep person, but is that a new breed of sheep? Solar sheep?
Sorry, did it say solar?
It was distracted.
Oh,
Your
okay.
title,
Oh.
solar sheep.
I think that was a title from from someone else, but I won't claim it.
just so you know, sheep do grow on sunshine
Yeah.
because sunshine makes the grass, which makes all animals grow. So
Only thing, I don't think we heard what the pigs, the sheep, and basically the chicken coop that moves itself, what that all costs. I don't think we heard any numbers.
No.
And then what they pay those guys to come in, and theoretically that, now this is in the town of Strathmore, and they said that, I had a little trouble believing this. They said that land was totally useless. The land
And
was totally useless till they put solar panels in there and put their sheep and chickens and pigs in there. And they said now it's building up and now it's great land. So
Board Member Brooke.
I did read a recent article about the whole solar farm things. And if memory serves me correctly, if you own the land, they'll pay you $300 an acre to put the panels out. And then if you're going to control the grass between them, they'll pay another, possibly 200. So you're looking at $500 an acre, but it means that whatever is grazing, it's heavily subsidized. So it doesn't have to make a lot of money to make it profitable, I think, which is, it's sort of like a win-win situation.
Board Member Nyberg.
Just a point that we don't call them solar farms, they're facilities because they don't really grow anything. So that's just my point on it. And I think it depends on the contract. I've heard upwards of $1,100 and they do the vegetation control too. So there's you could tell there's a huge gamut of what you're out there. So yeah.
Board Member Hunter.
The article I read, it was 120, if you had a quarter section, your rent you'd receive would be between 120,000 and 360,000 a year rent. Is the article I read.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the ASO site. So the capacity, like the maximum amount, would be 41 megs on that piece. Right now, it's at 22. And I think the other question was around, again, and this is from the ISO site. Looks like about 12 batteries now that are available at different spots. So yeah, so that was interesting day. Board Member Brooke.
I'm just curious, what kind of battery technology are they using?
I don't have that in front of me. I could look it up, Harry, but it's cans full of lithium, I think. But I'd have to look into it to make sure.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yep.
A lot of different ones. Yeah.
So how old
Member
is that
Nyberg.
facility?
I guess I didn't record that.
And the only reason I'm asking because we're seeing the trend from the planning commission that they're moving more to that battery storage. You're seeing that seems to be the trend of it is the battery storage system. The older systems didn't typically have a battery storage, and the new ones typically do. I say typically because not everyone's the same.
Yeah, and they may be very separate. And there's spots with just a battery out and about and tied to wind or tied to pumped hydro as well. Board Member Stevens.
I didn't realize the irrigation was quite that extensive in that area. So that was news to me. And the 10% evaporative loss, I thought, for a canal-based irrigation system was actually quite efficient and impressive. When you consider there's tons of cities in Alberta that lose double to triple that just in leakage. Not to name names, but 10% loss on an irrigation system, I thought was very efficient.
It's running water, I guess, so it's not standing. I don't know if that helps. Physics, I'm not sure. All right. Any other questions about Rob? Did you have anything you wanted to add? It's been a while since we've had one. I think about 5 years, correct? A tour.
Yeah, well, COVID time, maybe 6-7 years actually since
Okay.
would have been a tour. Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a smaller tour, like from what they had, but again, it's the first one that's been around in how many years?
When Rob says smaller, there was actually 500 people could have attended, and we ended up with 120 or something.
150 something, I
Yep.
believe, is what they had for numbers. Was it 30? Okay.
Board Member Nyberg.
Mr. Chair, so a couple of things. In the past, when we did have it, we also invited our town members to go along because I think it's important that our urban centered politicians get out into the rural areas. If this goes forward, that may be something we want to look at, as well as I would really encourage whoever the next Ag Service Board Tour host is, that they somehow reach out to our larger cities, Edmonton, Calgary, Red Deer, to invite those city councilors to something like this, because good communication and having that dialogue and understanding why we do some of the things we do is so important. In the past, I think we've had up to 3 town councilors that joined us, and I found that to be a very enlightening time for them, because they didn't understand how or what we were dealing with lots of times. So it was something that was good. The second point is, and back to what we're doing, if you have opportunity to speak with, it was, which county? Not, was it just one that put it on? With just Wheatland alone? Okay, I thought there was a couple, because we've had it in the past where some joined. Be interesting to get a dollar value, what it costs them to put it on, because it is not a money-making situation. It definitely helps your tourism, but not necessarily one that is a moneymaker.
Go ahead, Rob. I think you have some
They,
information in there.
they originally budgeted, there was a potential that it could have cost them 50,000, and in the end, with the way things scaled and everything else, they were sitting closer to 10 is about what it cost them to.
And regarding kind of a wider audience, maybe, Rob, when you, from a planning perspective, was it AAAF?
Yeah.
Is that what you call them? When you guys start thinking about the next one and counties, keep that in mind, that because it's excellent idea around inviting some of our municipal partners. Board Member Hunter?
Maybe we'll, because we toured their seed clean plant too, so we'll wait till we get our new one built out in the county, our seed clean plant, and we can have a tour.
Well, I'm going to tour our prototype maybe this weekend, or next weekend, I guess.
So
'Cause
you bet-
Innisfail is building a new plant there. It's a little over $6 million, and it'll be up and running this fall, which is 600 bushel an hour seed plant. It's actually a pretty nice little unit. So,
and it'd be kind of half the size thereabouts of
yeah,
the one that
it's
we.
basically half. Like that unit that's in Strathmore is just that facility doubled, basically, is what it is. Yeah. So.
Board Member Stevens?
Excellent report. I'll give you a motion to receive for information.
Okay, we've got a motion. All in favor? Unanimous. All right. Point 6, board's request for information. I don't see anything there. 7.1, rural water meeting distribution update.
Yeah, I don't believe, and Andrew, you might be able to speak to it. I don't believe there's been any further dialogue or invites to get to the table with that at all. Really, it's been pretty stagnant to this point. So
We'll leave that on here, I guess, for now as an agenda item, because it came, that discussion initiated through ASB, I think.
Yeah, we've pulled every lever we can, and we'll continue to do so. And so ASB seemed like a good fit, representing the agricultural community, that particularly where a good chunk of our demand is driven by actual agricultural operations and not just domestic water use. Over the last few years, with the drought situation, the amount of livestock producers that have had to haul water has been pretty large. So, in best case scenario, we can bring water straight to them. It seems like that's getting more and more of a distant possibility. Second, plan B is try and get truck fills closer to them.
Board Member Nyberg?
My apologies, Mr. Chair, but can I get a little context on what we were trying to do there? Was this us trying to advocate to the provincial government? So unfortunately, it's bureaucrat holiday season, so probably not much on the go. So
Yeah, we're going to leave it here, I think. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Is that enough of a report that we should accept that, I guess? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll give you a motion to receive for information with the fact that it stays on your agenda.
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. 7.2, ASB Provincial Committee Letter Resolution Grading.
my, is it resolution grading or the direction one that's next? Resolution direction, I guess. Is that what we're after?
That's definitely the next page for sure. So
I was reading from the agenda here, but it's this piece, resolution direction request, I guess. That was next up. Whatever was next up, I
Oh.
guess, on the screen, we can go with.
Okay, yeah, so October 21st, or yeah, 21st, 2026 in Rocky View County, that's the regional conference. If we do have any resolutions that we do want to bring forward, this is more of just a heads up to get it on the record, that anything we'd have to submit by September 23rd to get it, just based on the terms of reference, it has to be 4 weeks prior to the meeting. And so we would be asking that if we did have anything from our county, it's just so we wouldn't have to make it an emergent resolution, that we'd have it submitted by, or to us, or requested by, for administration by August the 12th. We'd kind of set that as a bit of a deadline. So if there was something in your minds that we were advocating for, that would give us the most amount of time to get our information together and get it out into the world. If there's nothing pressing, then, you know, for information, but if something does come up, that's sort of the deadline we're looking at for that.
Board Member Stevens?
I like the idea of adding that additional column of suggested actions. That makes sense to me. If you go down,
Okay, sorry, you're just a bit ahead of us. We're just,
oh,
and that was my fault. I think I was just following the agenda and I talked about grading. But before that, we've got this item, resolution direction, and it's just bringing forward that if we have resolutions, we need to get at her now.
Yep.
The two items that I thought about, and I'm not at all suggesting that we need a resolution, was, is there follow-up regarding our water resolution? Like, do we send it in with a little different words? I don't know. And the other one would be weeds on well sites and what appears to be our lack of ability to collect. The two items that, and I'm not sure we want to do more work on that, or there is work going on, of course. Thoughts? Board Member Stevens?
if the chair is all right with it, I'd like to table the discussion on weeds on well sites until we get to that topic.
Sure.
I think there may be room for a resolution, but I'm not sure if we have enough concrete info to create what that resolution should look like. So we can discuss further at that point.
Mr. Chair, help me out here. Will you have, before the resolution deadline, will you have another Ag Service Board meeting before then?
We had not planned one right now.
Oh, okay.
So that becomes the next problem if we choose to. Yeah.
So it is a simple function. If anybody comes up with a resolution, you can send it in, and via email, you guys can make that happen. I'll be honest, as board members, you probably aren't the ones going to be writing the resolution anyway. So it's, you guys come up with the ideas and the staff.
So I think this discussion is about whether or not there's anything of weight. There's weeds. We'll talk about it in a bit. Is there anything else that Board Member Brooks?
Well, it weighs on my mind, the closing of the Lacombe Research Station. And as we recently read in the news, Saskatchewan, the government of Saskatchewan is taking over the running of the two stations that were going to be removed there, Scott and Indian Head. But I'm wondering if we maybe should put in a resolution looking for some home for that research station, because the facilities are there. It's just a matter of the funding has been pulled by the federal government.
Board Member Hunter?
My understanding, they're keeping that open, the cone.
I at the ag tour, I sat with the Reeve Ireland. He wasn't very optimistic at that point last week. So I'm not sure. Board Member Stevens?
I agree that that's an important topic and I would love to see it stay open, but I thought we had a resolution already moving forward. Did that go through RMA and AUMA?
I know it went through RMA, but I'm not sure if the AFFF had one either. I don't know.
I would think
I-
they
Yeah,
would
there's
as a resolution.
I thought
can't
it was,
remember who put it out though, but there is.
Uh,
I thought it
An-
was
Andrew?
joint with the
Andrew?
county
Okay.
and the city of Lacombe.
Okay.
Put it jointly through the two organizations.
Andrew?
They did get it passed nearly unanimously, actually, at FCM as well. I haven't seen yet if they did at AM, but that is, of course, non-specific to urbans or rurals, and it was the two operating together.
Board Member Brooke?
Yeah, I do believe that the federal government did respond, but basically the response was they're not going to change their minds.
Mr. Chair, I thought I saw had a big celebration because they said that the government was keeping it open. So
There,
maybe
there was a standing committee that was nonpartisan, my understanding, that had suggested that it would stay open. But the Parliament hadn't done anything with it. So I'm just repeating a bits of what I know.
So, and you can help me out with this one. Did we write a letter to the official opposition leader, who happens to be our MP? Because it does affect us as well. I mean, maybe we need to follow up with another letter to him saying how important this is to us. So just a thought.
I believe a letter was wrote. I'm having a hard time remembering the correspondence right now. But I think we did have some. Board Member Stevens?
The article that I remember was back in May. So this decision came out in January, I believe, somewhere in there. But there was a federal committee that recommended halting these closures. And so, in answer to your question about it making to the opposition, it was there. The committee recommended not closing it, but then it never made it to the House of Commons to get changed. So, I think we're at a stalemate currently, as I understand it.
Andrew?
So yeah, the parliamentary committee's report went to Agriculture and Agri-Foods Canada on May 8th. And so they have 120 days to respond from there. And I don't think a response has come out yet. And that would be where Reeve Ireland would be speculating about what the outcome will be when he, indicates less than optimistic approach.
Board Member Hunter?
Well, I thought the correspondence I read, they were putting $14.5 million into their air conditioning system. They weren't stopping doing that. And that's why, and they had other money they're putting into it. Now, they were not going to go at full capacity, but it was going to be a lesser. They're dropping something. I can't quite remember what it was, but I thought for sure it stayed open, just at a lesser capacity.
So it looks like we got some contrary information. That's okay. There's lots going on. How do we want to proceed with this? Board Member Stevens?
Well, I think everyone here agrees the importance of this facility. So in my mind, it comes down to a question of, we've already done RMA, AUMA, and FCM. Do we think that it would be helpful to go through ASB as well? Or let those three groups do what they can do? So that's really my question that I think we have is, do we think a resolution through one more group is going to move the needle?
Board Member Brooke?
Part of the problem, I guess, with it as well is that once that announcement was mentioned that they were closing it, they started moving around researchers as well. So it's kind of like, if you did reopen it, then they're going to either have to hire new researchers or move them back. And I don't see that happening. Like Brianne Tiedemann was a weed researcher, really good one, a young one in Lacombe. And now she's signed over, I believe she's going to England. So we've lost some research capability there because of this. And then there's others who have been taking early retirement. So it's not just the facility, it's going to also be the staff.
I
Rob?
think there'd be some merit in waiting for that 120 days to expire and see where things are actually at, because at that point, there really hasn't been a federal decision. If there is one to not move forward, then maybe the next resolution would be, to have the province maybe step in. They used to fund it and spend a lot of money there and really keep it going. Over the years there was money spent, and they pulled 2016, 18. I can't remember what year they pulled funding from that, but maybe that's the next angle, just like Saskatchewan did. They tried to pull it to more of a provincial level.
We
like-
we could wait and then have an emergent resolution
that's
after
where
the outcome.
timing wise, we'd probably be, yeah.
Okay. Board Member Stevens?
The reason why, context behind why I brought up my previous question is we're doing these ASB surveys on what we want our provincial ASB board to look like. And there seems to be two camps, sort of status quo, fairly minimal and permanent staff on the provincial ASB board side. And then the second camp being expand ASB to increase the lobbying capabilities and almost have another RMA strictly to deal with ag type topics. And if we're going to go down this road where we're sending the same resolutions to both, we're kind of staking where we stand on that. We want both groups to be doing redundant lobbying. And I'm not sure if our board's really chosen a side on that topic yet.
Agreed. So are we comfortable with that we will not have, barring the weed discussion, that we will not have a resolution put forward at this point? Board Member Nyberg?
So, Mr. Chair, again, in the absence of having a resolution to go forward now, but in the next week or so, if somebody comes up with something, there's nothing barring you from putting a resolution forward via email. If everybody of the board agrees to it, you can ratify it later on. The timing is kind of the issue, because I'm not so sure the 4 weeks before. I get the idea they need it in, but most ag service boards are probably not sitting over the August month, which kind of really begs the differ. Are they ready for, why the timing? I don't know if they just have people sitting around waiting for this, but most ag service boards don't sit over the summer. I think they're busy doing ag stuff. So to that end, there's nothing stopping you from, in a week's time or a couple of weeks' time, sending it back to Mr. Klatt, everybody on the board going, I concur, let's do this and move forward. So you don't have to make a decision right now, but if you needed to in the future, you could. So, and I will give you a motion to receive this for information, the resolution direction, a request.
Thank you. All in favor? Lance, are you able to give us a thumbs up? There we go. Thank you. Next item, it's kind of combined here, I guess, but resolution grading. Go ahead, Rob.
Yep. Yeah, at the last meeting, there was some discussion about writing a letter and making some changes to the resolution grading process. And I think what we shared, it kind of limited the boxes the way the regional committee had shared it to us. And there was actually updates made for 2025 where it's responded in part, did not address the resolution, and no response. Like, those were added to it. And then if you go to the table at the bottom, it kind of gives like, we got 2024, what it used to look like. It was just, accepted in principle and unsatisfactory and incomplete. And now there's like suggested actions and things like that. And we're just curious what what more we want. Like what would we like to see beyond what they've actually implemented for 2025? Because yeah, the table at the bottom is what they'd sent us, but realistically, it's a little deeper than that. What they've put down as far as like resolution responses or whatever. So
So when we discussed this last meeting, this grading system, I don't think was shared, right? And
yeah, like
shared
it
no?
basically just
Okay.
had in part responded, withdrawn, whatever those lines, but in the actual like context of it, and even if you go through what we had in that package, like in their summary part, there's a lot more dialogue in that summary. So I'm not sure if there's more that we want them to add to this as a board. I just wasn't like when I went to write the letter, I kind of went through this stuff a little further, and then I went through what we had in the package, and I wasn't 100% clear what I was going to ask them for. Is all.
Board Member Stevens.
So I'm actually satisfied with the new grading system. I remember seeing the bottom chart, the resolution table, and that's what I found frustrating. It was responded, but the response was nothingless. It was, we acknowledge that you
Wave to us.
yeah. So
Yeah.
this
Sorry.
with the added table that started in 2025 with the suggested actions and that sort of thing, I think that context definitely changes it, because now responded, but that we need to meet with the minister or request a delegation. You can, while they responded in part, but it's not resolved, this is our next step. I think that in my mind is satisfactory.
Yeah, and I did send an email out that like the future correspondence when after our regional meeting, that what they send us would look more like this, so we actually have the rest of that context or whatever. So I think it'll just make it easier moving forward. Like that's basically where I was at after reviewing it all.
So we had a request for you to write a letter, I think, where we've decided that he won't, right? Do we need to make a motion to that end? Do we make a motion that you write a letter? I think last time.
Yeah, we had.
I guess my only question, if we're not going to send a letter, is we have some assurance that we're getting that
Yeah, and
upgraded grading system.
that dialogue has happened as far as
Okay.
just that we get the complete grading system when they reach out to us. So
If we're going to start getting the completed grading system, then I'm comfortable not sending the letter anymore. But
You're going to make that motion, right?
I will move that we instruct administration to not send a letter. No.
No.
That's
The very definition of negative motion. Could I suggest, Mr. Chair, that we would rescind motion 194.06.17.26?
I will make that rescinding motion.
And the reason you would do it is,
You can't make a negative motion.
no, but just so for the record, so again, this is protecting staff. If 4 years from now, staff never sent the letter and somebody said, well, you guys had a motion to send the letter and then you never sent the letter, what the heck is he doing? This is just protecting your staff. So.
Okay, I've heard a motion to rescind, a motion from last meeting. All in favor? Board Member Nielsen?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, 7.3, weeds on well sites.
perfect. Here's a letter we did send. So we had sent a letter to the ministers regarding weeds on well sites and RCAM orders and all of that stuff. They gave us a response, which I feel was fairly reasonable, in an email, which you guys have attached there. And then with the addition of that, they'd sent us a flow chart. So, and based on the flow chart, like it looks like if it's, orphan wells, we do our inspections, we have a direct contact to kind of coordinate a plan as far as weed control and payment under orphan wells. And if there's still solvent and operating leases or whatever, we're going to issue the notice and go through that whole process. We don't have to have actually sprayed. We have to go through all those steps to get some kind of formal action taken, possibly, RCAM orders and things like that in place, listing the deficiencies as far as weeds and things that way. I think it did give a lot of clarity to actually some of the questions we did have. It doesn't give us cost recovery measures on semi-insolvent operators, which it seems to be that there's a lot of them, and that can drag on for many years when they're just transferring names and titles and things. But as far as orphan wells, it does really give us a fairly clear, like actionable step or whatever to remediate weeds and things. So we are looking at doing some work with that.
Board Member Hunter.
Where's this kind of request coming from?
What's that? So,
Like, is this coming from the ER that we get involved, or?
well, we're mandated, like under the Weed Act and stuff. Like we are involved. It's within our county. Like we weed inspect and we're tasked to control these things or whatever, right? So we do have to take these steps.
But I don't, my knowledge of it, that aren't the farmers just basically do it themselves? Like, I know I've done mine. I just go, because I don't want the weeds there, so I just go spray them. Nothing illegal about it.
Well,
Board Member Stevens.
So the context where this came from, this came out of the mature asset strategy that went about. One of the pushbacks that was given by the members involved in that was the weed problems. And as to whether landowners should go and do it, A, it's not their responsibility. And B, there is a ton of landowners that should not go anywhere near that lease. No,
Yeah.
realistically, there is a whole series of hazards that they're not aware of. And those that are unfamiliar with oil and gas facilities should not go on those sites by themselves with zero training to do someone else's weed control when that landowner doesn't have an option to tell them, no, I don't want you on my land. So they can force entry. And then here's a prime example. So this one came to me, these pictures, from a neighbor. So it's chain linked. Someone's already cut the gate to open it up. But do I want anyone going in there? Whether they know it's live, venting, etc. Because that's a very sour field. And it hasn't been functioning and hasn't seen an operator in a long time. Do I know that it's safe for just anyone to go in there? No, I don't want every random landowner to be responsible for an oil and gas company's weeds. But as you can see through the pictures, it's the entire thing. The thistles are pretty thick and pretty tall. They've done well in this weather this year. So what I would think, before we go down the resolution, we're making some assumptions about how cumbersome this process is going to be. And I hope I'm wrong that it isn't going to be, but I would like to do a weed notice on one active company and one OWA site so that we can see how this actually unfolds. How much work is involved? If it's just sending staff out, they take pictures, issue a weed notice, send it off, well then great, the system works. Someone else took care of it and they are responsible for what they should be. And we can sort of calm down a bit. But if we hit nonstop roadblocks, then we know what needs to be fixed. But right now, we're guessing on what the problem and bottleneck is going to be. So this came in from one of the neighboring farmers who admittedly, during the phone call he has no love lost for this oil company due to not getting paid for the lease for a number of years. So why we should add another expense to that landowner that has lost land, has weed control issues because of someone that has forced their way on and won't pay his lease, to, to call him back and say, we want you to go and spray the weeds for the guy that uses your land and won't pay you. I don't want to participate in that phone call because it may be quite volatile.
Rob, did you have a plan as it relates to this new information and how you were going to approach things?
Yeah, we've collected 3 sites for the orphan wells, so we have the inspections done and everything in the whole process. So we're going to be contacting maybe tomorrow or Monday and go through that step on those ones. So I feel like that's a fairly easy process. And then this, obviously, these pictures are available now, so we'll do the polygons and the notice on that side for the active wells and just see how long this timeline takes. So it shouldn't be too bad for us to. I might even like try and have 3 on each side as far as inspections and follow through, just so we can see, because they might have a little different dynamic or whatever with the company that's still active or whatever. But and just kind of go from there and see where we where it all ends up.
Board Member Nyberg?
The email that was sent out, I think earlier today, or was it earlier today or yesterday, or I can't remember, but it basically, Weeds on Wells, and they were stating that this is not a cost recovery item. I'm not 100% sure how that works because they're responsible for this. Once again, the oil and gas companies are taking a black eye because they're not taking responsibility for their environmental mismanagement. And it drives me nuts when I see this, because if they're not willing to spend the money to do the weed control, but yet I can go to a farmer's place or an acreage owner, if they don't control it, we seize their land and control it. And in these guys, you are in a situation where, yeah, they don't care. I can't believe how the oil and gas companies' reputations have been diminished so much over the last few years. And they're doing it to themselves.
Board Member Stevens?
That particular example that we saw the pictures of, I'd love if you took pictures of the adjacent site. It shares a fence with an ATCO pipeline station immediately beside it, and that the difference is stark. It is brand new chain link fence, fresh gravel, and there is not a speck of grass or a weed on the entire site. And they share a fence line. So it's clear that many of our oil and gas companies take a lot of pride and do a very good job of this. And it can be done because it is happening literally on the other side of the fence. So I think it may tell quite a tale to show the 2 side-by-side pictures in that weed notice.
Okay, we've had a good discussion. Rob, sounds like he's got a plan. It looks like 3 orphan well and 3 thereabouts others.
Yeah.
Any more discussion on this item? Okay, do we need, go ahead.
I'm just, so the plan is that you're going to instruct Ag Service Board to
Oh,
go
he-
ahead with 3 sites and 3 sites, so 6 sites in total.
It's sort of awkward because our ag fieldman has the authority to do weed inspections and notices all on his own.
Mhm.
I'm comfortable making that motion to instruct them at a small scale to see what the process entails, but I don't want to hold us.
It maybe be
Tie
3
his
sites at a
hand.
minute or something like.
I
Like
mean,
it just
So
like
if I could, it's just instruct him to, as usual, he will do it, but take 3 sites to go through the process. He will do the weed notices on everything that needs a weed notice out there. We're not holding him back, but 3 to do the process, go through the process on them. I think is the difference. I agree with what you're saying because you can't instruct him to do weed notices because he can do that all on his own, but to do the process, because the process is going to be what we're dealing with here.
Oh, Andrew,
I
sorry.
was just going to suggest that probably the functional part here is to report back on the process to this board, to request that he brings back a report on the resource involvement in pursuing both abandoned well weed sites as well as solvent and operating well sites.
I'll instruct administration to bring back a report on how labor and intensive and costly enforcements are for both orphan well and solvent operating companies to a future ASB meeting.
Any further discussion? Oh, Board Member Hunter.
Well, is this kind of redundant? Because I understand, Rob, you're mandated already to have to do it.
Yeah, we're supposed to.
So why are we worrying about a motion?
So this is, again, what I was getting to previous was we're not telling him to do the weed inspection.
Someone else is already.
No, he's already doing, he's something he's already doing. What he is instructed to do back is to bring back information on putting it through this. He can do the weed inspection and the weed notice without going through all this.
But he has to do what he's getting told to do now.
Yeah, he's going to do 3 of them, right? So
If he's told to do 6, he has to do 6.
right on, yeah.
Board Member Stevens.
The purpose of the motion and why we want this information back is if we back up 20 minutes, half hour ago when we were discussing resolutions. Because there's a lot of concern that this new power that they gave us for policing weeds on AER controlled sites. So this is somewhat of a new authority that we were given when before it was a gray area and AER was supposed to take care of the enforcement. We don't think this system is going to function well as it is planned currently. So we're dipping our toes in to see exactly where the bottlenecks are, whether or not these companies respond and do what they're supposed to, and whether or not the on the orphan well side, if the funding recovery mechanism actually works before we go into wholesale and rack up tens of thousands of dollars in enforcement and spraying. Because if we get feedback from our ag fieldmen that, hey, this isn't working well, these were the roadblocks. Well, in September, we can craft our resolution to go to the province and say, what you did doesn't work for reasons A, B, and C. This is what we want changed, and craft a resolution accordingly. Because I do not want to invest a ton of tax money doing something if we have no cost recovery. And I just need to know what that's going to look like when we actually go through the process.
Board Member Hunter.
How are we getting allowed to go on these sites then? Like, do we have to, like that site's, that number, whatever lease number it is, like, do we get permission in writing, email, like that site we're allowed to go on?
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay,
Yeah, I think he's got a response.
just,
Yeah, I'm reasonably able to enter properties that are like open spaces just under the Weed Act. I'm allowed
Okay.
to access those. I mean, safety wise, if it's fenced off and there's potential for H2S, whatever's going to be happening. I also have a drone. There's a lot of options that we can look at as far as.
but
how we
is
can
there,
actually
are you gonna have a farmer there with a shotgun or something too, maybe?
You know what? I'm probably gonna have a farmer there with a case of beer if I'm showing up to like help them out.
No,
like
I'm just
honestly,
saying,
no,
like,
like they're gonna
get
be
the-
happy. I don't.
I'm not
I-
getting
I-
paid,
yeah.
you stay off my fucking lease, you know, I can see it.
Yeah, but I in
I
that
know.
situation, I'm going to contact people first because I kind of want to help. I want to help these people
Okay.
out too, and that's actually why I'm going there, right? So
Board Member Stevens.
The landowner was the one that called with the complaint, so I suspect he will not be upset
Oh, no.
if enforcement shows up. And it's adjacent to the county road, so you can get sufficient info
Yeah.
from our county right away without ever setting foot on that lease, if that's the concern.
But a lot of farmers, they put gates across, they lock it. You got no access to that lease.
Oh, a year ago, that lease road was blocked by farm equipment out of spite for not getting paid. So yeah, that is a legitimate concern.
Okay, we've had some discussion on the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Unanimous. All right. 7.4, terms of reference, members at large.
I feel like this could almost be an Andrew one.
Yeah, for sure.
I can do it too.
Why don't you
Doesn't matter.
start and then I'll
Sure.
add in the council bits.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, just this time of year, it's coming up that if we're looking to advertise or do any changes to our terms of reference, terms that term lengths for members that are on the board, and anything we'd like to adjust or make recommendations to council on how they see our ASB operating and running throughout the year. It's kind of that time of year to reflect on that and see if the plan's working, because this is our first kick at the can, and if we're happy with the terms or if there's anything we'd like to change. Now is sort of our opportunity to do that. And if there are recommendations to our terms of reference, does anyone have any right now they would like to?
Mr. Chair, and just a cautionary note that this is a recommendation only. Council is the ones that would make the decision on this. This is wholly in the hands of council to make this decision. So.
Andrew?
I would expand that at this point, ASB's almost all of what you do is a recommendation to council. And so now would be the appropriate time to ask. There was some discussion at a prior meeting about, for example, ASB being able to approve workshops that are already within the global budget of ASB that's been approved by council. If there's any other delegated authority that the Agricultural Service Board wishes to request, it's a good time. We've brought forward our procedure.
Andrew? So we have that on the agenda at 7.7.
Oh, yeah, it's also really appropriate
Okay,
right here because it's
okay.
terms of reference.
Okay.
We can
Together, yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
didn't
can
realize
roll
we had to
together.
do. Look at
Okay.
that, I get to speak plain.
Okay.
But yeah, the actual terms of reference are where council would do that, and we're proposing that the procedural bylaw now include the terms of reference as a schedule, and then that allows us to marry it up with all of the stuff that we've got for all council committees, like your rules around conflict of interest, your the parliamentary procedure we follow. All of those types of things don't need to be repeated in each sets of terms of reference. So council took their first look at that at their most recent committee of the whole meeting, and very much wanted the ASB's input on any changes or requests.
So, Mr. Chair, I would like to both Mr. Brook and Mr. Nielsen to comment on what their experience has been.
Board Member Brooke, you're up next.
Okay, I find it's very interesting and I'm enjoying the process of looking at the various issues that challenge agriculture and helping out as much as I can. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. And if you want, I will continue to enjoy it.
Thank you. Board Member Nielsen?
I found it interesting, but I found it to be a little too many meetings too often, and for the amount of information or the amount of topics that we discuss and look at, I just think we're spending a lot of time, more time than I have. So that's been my experience here.
Thank you, Board Member Nielsen. I'm the idea to add members at large to this committee. Can you comment on that, Board Member Nielsen, if you think having members at large has been effective. And maybe I'll ask Board Member Brooke afterwards.
I think board members at large is a great idea, and like I do enjoy being a board member at large. But this is something that's been weighing on my mind for a little bit, actually. I think we ask. I think we're meeting too often for the amount of info that we have to make decisions or discuss. But so then that makes it difficult to get board members at large, right? You want a board member at large that is actively engaged in the community, in agriculture, and there's limited time. And so when the meetings don't seem to hold enough productive value, it seems difficult to justify spending time away from your operation to attend them. I think if we had fewer meetings that were more productive, I think board members at large are something that should be retained and maybe even expanded. And I think you'd find people interested. But when meetings are too frequent and not productive enough, I think we have issues.
Thank you. Board Member Brooke.
I agree with Lance that having non-council members as board members is a good idea. And also because it gives fresh perspective. Because oftentimes yourselves, you have limited amount of time to spend doing your regular stuff, because you do have a lot of meetings, which allows you to meet with people. But having been through the process of organizing and being on ag service boards, I understand there is a lot of paperwork that has to be dealt with and a lot of issues that you may or may not have the ability to affect, but you have to try. So I understand the need, but yeah, you could probably take the summer off.
Thank you. Board Member Stevens.
So far, I'm still satisfied with having the current structure of having 2 members at large. I would like to continue that trend. We're 7 months in to a pretty substantial change. So I don't think we've given it a fair shake at this point. And I support the idea of having members at large on this organization. The one thing that I will point out on the term length, I believe that option 1 is probably the least advantageous option to me. Having turnover every year, I don't think is helpful. But I do have a follow-up question for Lance. If you had more flexibility in your schedule, would that be advantageous? Like, is this strictly a meeting scheduling issue, or is it some of it just because you have so many irons in the fire, so to speak, where you're having trouble juggling? Is it some of both? I guess is my question.
Yeah, it's probably some of both, but if you want a board member at large, I think you want people that are actively engaged in the production of agriculture, and if you are having monthly meetings, and especially if they get bogged down, which tends to happen in any large organization, that's not ASB specific by any means, but it just becomes, if there's no value, if the person like me in my position doesn't see it as value, why would I spend time away from my operation, right? So if there's value, I want to be there and I want to be part of it. But too frequent of meetings, it's a trade-off, and I don't see the value of my time being spent when we have too many meetings that don't accomplish a whole bunch. I think if we cut the meetings in half and we're a every 2-month meeting, or maybe we obviously could take off the summer and come back, summer's pretty busy if you're actively engaged in agriculture. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. And I think lots of people like to feel valuable and helpful and want to help direct get direction, but it has to fit.
Board Member Nyberg.
Thank you for that. And so to Mr. Nelson, what would bring value to this? I've been doing this a long time, and I know where you're coming from with too many meetings. I too am very active, have a lot of irons in the fire. I guess you make time for those things that you find important. So what would you feel, or how would you improve the situation? Because there is a lot of information to disseminate from this stuff. And if you're giving direction as a board to a certain organization, how would you change it?
I think the easiest change would be to cut the number of meetings down, because and again, this isn't ASB specific. I've been on enough boards. I realize this is how they operate. And rehash and I get it, but just cutting down the sheer number of meetings, I think would be very helpful. I think we end up spending a lot of time on meetings just for ASB is what I'm looking at, and we're taking time away from even county employees having prepared meeting agendas and that sort of thing, and I'm struggling to see the value in such frequent meetings all the way around, and certainly for a member at large's time. So, I mean, to me, that's just the number one thing. I just don't see the number of meetings necessary for the amount of information that we covered.
And to that, I guess that I have, this is my first Ag Service Board meeting since I've stepped off. Are your meetings ending early? Are you going to the end of? Okay, so
We've had more so a problem with too many topics and moving them along. So there is a lot to cover. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not sure if you're going to get away with less meetings. I mean, that's going to be a tough one, Mr. Nelson, because I do think that to get a fulsome discussion, especially when you have new people involved, I would dare say the opposite of that is the fact that you become a board that is ineffective because you're not educated well enough in the topics at hand, and not everybody can be an expert on every topic. So unfortunately, when you sit on a board, you move at the pace of your slowest board member. So that is the situation that you deal with. So yeah, I'm with you. I'd like to have a lot less meetings, but there's a lot more things I could be doing with my time as well.
Good discussion. Board Member Hunter.
Are we looking for a motion for this, a recommendation?
If I could, you can make a motion. I do have some more to. Yeah, I had one other item to add. One thing, as we're considering lengths of time, I wondered if we could manage to have over the election season, have the member at large still in place, so that we would have, in case of council change, that we would have a ASB member for continuity. But that would be my only thought. Board Member Nyberg.
And I think that's if you went with a 2-year term starting on a split year. So, and I'm going to say Mr. Brook as somebody that would sit now, and we appointed him next year for a 2-year term, he would cover that over. So going forward, that would be the split year you would have to do it. And that would continue on. The only time that you would lose that is if you had somebody step down in a even year, not an odd year.
Okay, Board Member Hunter, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'd like to see option 1. I think it gives us more versatility. I mean, you just renew them. It's not a big deal. Maybe they don't like it. Maybe they don't have time for it. I think it just gives us a lot more options to be more flexible. And if it's a fit, it's a fit. If it's not, it's not. So I'd make a motion to go with option 1.
A discussion, Councillor Nyberg.
So this would be a recommendation to council. Council will sit and make the decision. I think length of term might be something we'll look at adding to as well, but that'll be.
Board Member Stevens?
Um, I tend to disagree. So in the event that something changes in your personal life, a member at large wants to step away, they haven't signed a contract. Anyone, if we had a member at large that had health issues or family issues and needed to step away, they could resign. And the nature of us having two alternates, you could step in and fill that gap temporarily. I think one of the pitfalls with 1-year terms is that there is a little bit of a learning curve to understand the process of how the meetings are run, who's involved. And I think the worst thing we could do is have brand new members every year like clockwork. I don't, by time they feel comfortable, half the term is over. And I think having that continuity would be a benefit. So I,
Okay, some good discussion. Board Member Brooke?
Like I've been involved in ASBs where they meet every quarter or they meet every 6 months. I mean, it's not 6 months, but 6 times a year. And the issue with that then is by the time they get to the meeting, the agenda is so large that it takes sometimes till the middle of the afternoon to finish it up. So it may be fewer meetings, but there's a lot more time invested in each meeting. So I'm not so sure that it actually achieves a whole lot with fewer meetings, because then you'd have to start making decisions what's important and what's not.
Board Member Stevens?
the scheduling of this, and I see both sides on the amount of meetings. And I mean, on this agenda, we're talking about canceling next month's meeting due to a slow agenda. But it's important to understand how we got here, and that is, this was done as when it was entirely council. If you did it at the same day as MPC, it ended up being a full day. And now that we have certain people serving on just one or the other, yeah, it is kind of a scheduling nightmare when you're coming in for a 2 or 3 hour meeting and not a full day. So it's kind of a leftover of how we got here.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, Board Member Nielsen?
Maybe, and I'm not, this isn't criticizing, this is spitballing, this is, trying to think of different ways, but maybe there's some more forward-looking planning that ASB could engage in rather than reactionary, right? So you set out a forward-looking plan that is executed by the agriculture team, and they don't necessarily have to come to ASB to ask for or report to as much if we had more forward-looking plan and agenda. And the reactionary items could, if there is an emergency item, they can be handled with email correspondence potentially, but maybe we can eliminate some of the reactionary agenda items.
Thank you. I'm not sure. I think often in this case, Rob drives most of the agenda, and he's looking for direction from this board. So we'll take that, what you've said. Thank you. Okay, we've got, are we making should we make a motion here or a recommendation? Yeah, I'm checking on the wording.
Yeah, it is a motion to recommend to council.
Okay.
All things must be done by resolution.
Okay, so we have a motion. It's option 1 from Board Member Hunter. Any more discussion on the motion? All in favor? Okay, so 2. And opposed? Yeah, yeah. And so we've got 4 opposed.
So, Mr. Chair, there will be no recommendation that goes forward to council. Council will deal with it. That's,
We can make another
Oh, okay.
motion. Okay.
I will move that we, ASB recommends option number 2, starting at the October renewal. And that'll give us a 2-year term for our members at large. And the timing will carry us through next election. So they would run out, that term would run out a year before the election. You renew for a 2-year term, and that would give you your continuity in case there's the board shakeup.
We have a motion regarding option 2. Any discussion? All in favor? We got 4 opposed. 1 opposed. Have that recorded? Okay. So we have a recommendation to take to council. All right. 7.5 Ag Lease Lands Renewal Policy.
Mic on. There we go. Yeah, this year the leases are up for renewal, and I know there's been a lot of debate and discussion around the ag lease lands. And as administration, we're just looking for a little bit of direction and I guess advice as to where the county sees these lease lands moving forward as a long-term thing. Should we be adjusting from a 5-year term to a lesser term if we are making decisions on some of these? And then we wanted to get a little bit of clarity on the timing of the tender process. When do we want to advertise and kind of block that out? The methods, duration of advertisement, and do we want to further evaluate each lease, like as far as like holding capacity and things like that, or do we want to keep things as they are in the policies? Because right now there is some there's definitely some differences between the actual policies and the contracts they sign, and they're somewhat variable. So,
Board Member Nyberg.
when does the lease come due?
end of October. That's when they.
So, if it pleases the chair, there's some of these that we as council had a very last committee of the whole, we had a very large discussion on where we were going to actually change some of these. There was opportunity to possibly take some acreages off some of them. There was some opportunity to possibly sell some of them. So I'm wondering if we're jumping the gun a little bit on this till council has had an opportunity to make that decision of what we're going to deal with.
I'm to help council. I'm wondering if this board's willing to give a bit of recommendation around, and not so much ones for sale or what have you, but I think what I've heard from Rob is just general direction around, you know, are we going to move to a different type of lease? We have.
And I guess part of that is just we get phone calls from people wondering, you know, if they're coming up, they hear they're coming up this year or whatever, and we don't really have completely an answer for them. I mean, I guess if I follow what Sarah, you know, you're telling them 5 years or whatever, but yeah, we were just kind of hoping there'd be a little bit of direction as far as like when do we actually want to advertise these things. So I think, especially like as a producer, like if you do have an opportunity to get a lease, and especially if I'm grazing or whatever, I could change my capacity on what I feed through the winter if I knew in October, like what I was going to get. But these actually come to fruition like in the spring, and so it's really hard to you know, make plans. Like maybe there's some timing that we could adjust, or maybe not. I'm not quite clear on.
For me,
Yeah.
You know, and I have bid on some, didn't get them, but to be able to bid in the fall for 3 years around what this looks like, how many animal units, for example, things like that, would be quite helpful to have that kind of security, I guess, and knowing what's going on. And again, it's a recommendation from ASB. To your point, council makes the decision. Go ahead.
So in the private sector, as far as lease land goes, I imagine it's all over um, all over the gamut of what options are out there. Is there a typical year? Is it year-to-year lease that you typically do? I think Mr. Hunter, you lease some of your land out, yeah?
Well, it's usually like a 3 at 5, but I think the towns here is every year. Quarter they, or the part of the quarter they got by the transfer site here. But I agree with Rob, like what is it now?
It's 5.
It's 5 years. So, and I don't have a problem with that, but I don't know if we could be either two ways. We could be, if the cattle market goes to shit, we could, be doing really good because rent's high, or if it goes up, we could be losing out on money. But usually these guys that are after these parcels, they're all over it. They know, they keep a pretty close eye on it. It's coming up.
Board Member Nielsen?
Can I
Nielsen?
interrupt, Mr. Chairman? Sorry. I can't find my hand.
Oh, okay. Yvette, CAO Cassidy.
Yeah, sorry. One of these days I'll learn how to run this thing. Anyway, one of the major concerns we get with the lease land is the way it's drafted right now is that whoever has the current lease with us basically has the right of first refusal. So we tender them, we get bids on them. If the person who has had the old lease, they have the opportunity to match that highest offer and keep that lease. And I know that in the past that has upset some of our ratepayers. Another thing that's kind of unique to the county of Stettler is you have to be a resident of the county of Stettler to enter into a grazing lease with the county of Stettler. And what we're some of the other feedback when we looked before about either going to a 3-year instead of a 5-year term was that producers like the security of the 5-year term. So if they go out and they buy a bunch of cattle to run on these leases, they want to make sure that it's available to them for at least 5 years. If that helps at all.
Thank you. Board Member Nielsen?
No, what Yvette had said kind of covers what I was going to say. So as a producer, I was going to add in that, a 3-year is reasonable. I Ducks Unlimited and those kind of organizations do a 3-year, and I find that reasonable. And I was also going to mention about the right of first refusal. I know that was a sore spot at the last renewal time, the existing tenants with the right of first refusal. And if I was going to add my 2 cents, I would recommend changing that aspect. But 3 or 5 year, I think, is pretty reasonable.
Thank you. Board Member Stevens?
So I'll agree with that right to match the highest bid. If you had that lease originally, you could bid $1 just to keep your name in the game, and then just match whatever the highest bid is. There's no point risking or gambling in quote unquote overpay when you have the right to match whatever it is. It seems patently unfair to me. You can put in a joke bid just to keep your name in the running so that you don't overpay. It's no different than an auction. You raise your hand, and if you happen to be the highest bidder, you're the highest bidder. I mean, in the private world, I bid on construction jobs all the time, and not once has any of the clients that I work for said to me, we like you. You've done work for us before. Can you match this price? We'll give it to you anyway. Well, we might as well skip the whole process and just pick favorites. That an open tender process is fair, and I do agree that it should strictly be county residents. Where we have had pushback is we have some people that live right near our county line that own substantial property and farm extensively in our county, should they be eligible. That's the gray zone that I'm open to other opinions on. If you're an active community member and you pay taxes in the county from owning land and you have adjacent farmland, that's the one I don't have the answer for.
Okay, good discussion. Rob, you've heard quite a bit from the folks or this
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, and I mean, I think right now with some of the reclamations and things going on and a bit of the planning around some of the leases, and I don't know what the county's long-term plan is, I'd lean a little bit towards 3 years. I wouldn't want to see a lease less than 3 years because that would be really hard to manage yourself around. And like 5 years, yeah, I understand is ideal, but I mean, in the 3-year cycle, depending on markets and things like that, it does allow for that price to go up and down and actually stay with things a little bit. You know, if it's hot right now, but to be committed for 5 years, I guess it's a big deal. So
Yeah,
Board,
that's just
board member Stevens.
The next question I have, and Rob brought this up previously, is the timing of when we do this. So as a board, do we think it would give the landowners more options and security if we did it in the fall? So they had an additional
Yes.
3-4 months to plan this. That has some merit to me. You can plan your feed a little better.
So what I'm hearing is 3 in the fall. Drop the rate to match. The other item that's still up for discussion, I guess, is who's eligible. Board member Brooke.
Just thinking though, with the right to match, usually with grazing land, it's kind of integral to your farm operation and the number of cattle you have. And that kind of preserves the continuity of the unit, right? It's a quarter section in most cases or smaller, but still it can be a very valuable piece of land as part of their grazing management. So I kind of like I would like to see them leave the right to match.
Okay. Board member Nielsen.
If we leave the right to match, I think you have to put in there that the existing tenant has to be within 10% of the top bid. So you don't get that scenario that Mr. Stevens said, where they just bid $1 just to keep their name in the running. And other organizations do something similar to that. You know, if you're within 10%, they'll come back to you if you're the existing tenant and they like working with you. I think you'd have to have something clarification like that.
Thank you. Okay, so we've had some discussion. What are we looking forward? How do we put this forward to council? What is the best way, Andrew?
I would suggest it might be appropriate to have multiple motions. You've got a few distinct recommendations for changes to your policy, particularly with the right of first refusal. It could go either way, and you don't want to lump everything together. And so there seems to be some unanimity on the 3 years tendered in the fall as one motion. And then the right of first refusal, whether to keep that or alter that or get rid of it. And then as a third motion, to confirm a recommendation as to whether you will keep it as county resident, county landowner, or remove that restriction entirely. And of course, all 3 of these are recommendations to council as they reconsider the policy. And then the last thing I would propose that hasn't been discussed, and it will be more appropriate for council to consider, but I thought it would be worth mentioning that the policy could include and then be reflected in the agreements the right of the county to remove up to 20% of the land area if they were going to redevelop it, with a commensurate prorated reduction in their annual fee. That would give council the flexibility of moving a little bit quicker on if they wanted to do some subdivisions for acreages on a few of these as they've discussed, whilst also not, leaving that land vacant for 3 years.
So we have a few recommendations there. Okay, board member Nielsen.
Yeah, I think his hand was just.
I'm sorry, I fumbled with my phone there. Sorry, I just had lowered my hand.
It's all right. Board member Stevens.
I'll move that the board recommends a 3-year lease tendered in the fall.
Any further discussion on that item? All in favor? Lance, are you in favor of that motion? Yep, there we go. Unanimous. Board Member Stevens?
I'll just to move things along. Like I said, I have mixed feelings on this. If we open it up to any county landowners, we may be opening up a new can of worms, being that we have absentee or corporate farms that would be benefiting that aren't necessarily invested in our communities. So it's kind of a double-edged sword on this. So I'll move that we recommend county residents only be eligible in the tender.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Any other motions? I think there was a couple other suggestions. Board Member Brooke?
I'll move that the county has the right to remove up to 20% of the land in question for other purposes at any time with a commensurate reduction in the rental on a prorated basis.
Board Member Stevens?
Would you be open to a friendly amendment? And that is, I think it's fair that we give a 1-year heads up. If we're gonna subdivide and remove pasture, then you have a 3-year lease. I think we have to give some notice to that renter before we pull the pin and remove 20 acres from them.
Okay, I agree that I would agree with the friendly amendment.
Rob?
Yeah, I think that's important that we have that time frame and that context of communication when we are, putting in fence or cutting out acres or doing something different, because with some of the leaseholders I've dealt with that have been extremely frustrated with things that we've done, it's related to that. So to have that actually in there with like, hey, we got to give you this much notice respectfully would be a well-added addition, I would say.
Any other discussion on that? Do you have that recorded? All in favor? Opposed? Lance? Sorry, Lance, I kind of got ahead of you there. Is that in favor? Or opposed, Lance?
No, I'm opposed.
Opposed? Okay, 2 opposed. Andrew, did we have a fourth recommendation there?
The right of first refusal has not had a recommendation. Has it? Oh, did we? Sorry,
No,
did I?
no.
Okay.
You're on a roll.
Board Member Stevens?
I'll move that we recommend that we remove the right of first refusal from the tender process.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, sorry.
So there was a couple of contexts. Mr. Nielsen brought in the fact that it has to be within 10%. You just want it removed completely.
That was his motion, I think.
What Lance has suggested, I believe, is a better solution to our current system. But that is not my motion. I think I would definitely be able to live with Lance's motion if this one gets defeated.
Board Member Nielsen?
I think, upon a bit more reflection, I would probably rather see a motion that includes you got to be within the 10%, because then it does allow
for continuity for an operation. If they've been a good tenant, they've had a good relationship with the county, and the county wants to keep them in the relationship, giving them the opportunity if they're within 10%. I think that is a good strategy, because you don't want to lose good tenants for a couple dollars for a poor tenant.
Okay. Yeah. Board member Hunter, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I totally agree with Councillor Stevens on this. Like, I'm sorry, it's like an auction, whatever, you're online, auction, you hand, it's fair game for everybody. I don't like the matching, and I kind of agree with that, because if those farmers are actually, keeping the fence up and that, they kind of deserve it. I don't know if there's any recall on fencing or improvements the landowners do. Does that get reflected?
It can be paid back, yeah, like
Okay.
negotiated for
But
whatever.
no, I just think I think it's fair to the farmer is to, I'm sorry, a high man gets it, just like the town of Stettler up here. Whoever's high gets it.
Board member Brooke?
Just have a question as to how intense or how many people are interested in the various parcels, if there's a fair bit of competition or not.
It has generally always been reasonably competitive. They're not, it's not overwhelmingly so, but I would say in the past, we've typically had at least 3 bids per parcel. There's some that are exceptions to that, in fact, there's a couple on this list that realistically, there's only one landowner that could benefit from, just because they're landlocked parcels. But in other cases, we generally, especially with the more desirable parcels, they have been genuinely competitive.
Okay, we have a motion. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion? That's 4.
That's, yeah.
Sorry? Opposed? 2 opposed. Okay, our delegation is here. Is it okay that we have them next? Okay, any concerns? All right. Are you gonna, Rob, you'll invite them in? Rob, will you introduce these folks as best you can? Yeah.
I can introduce us
Okay.
if you want.
Sure.
So I'm Leanne Niblock. I'm the Executive Director of the Alberta SPCA. This is my colleague, Melissa Logan, and she has a stick with a PowerPoint on it that I think has just been handed over. So Melissa is our Director of Education and Strategic Initiatives. I'm going to give you a little bit about the Alberta SPCA while they're getting going, if that's okay. So,
Mr. Chair, just if I could, we'll do introductions quickly so you know
perfect.
who you're talking
Great,
to.
thank you.
Start here.
Krista Schlender, Manager of Administrative Services Operations.
Alan Gano, Chair.
Councillor Hunter from Ward 2.
Justin Stevens, good morning.
Morning.
Harry Brook, member.
James Nyberg, Ag Service Board Member.
Rob Klatt, Manager of Ag Services.
Andrew Brishik, Director of Municipal Services.
And we have 2 folks online, if they'd introduce themselves. Board Member Nielsen
Lance Nielsen, Member at Large.
and CAO Cassidy.
Yvette Cassidy, CEO for the County of Stettler.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know you're getting close up to lunch here, so we're not going to take up a bunch of your time. But thanks for having us today. Really appreciate it. Again, a little bit about the Alberta SPCA before we jump into the new legislation. So we've been around for 66 years. We're the only organization in the province that is mandated to enforce the Animal Protection Act across the entire province outside the cities of Edmonton and Calgary. So I have 10 or 11 peace officers based out of Edmonton, Central Alberta. Used to have an office in Red Deer, but we're getting rid of it. That's why I stumbled on that. Not sure where they're going to be based out of. And then Okotoks. So we do cover the entire province with our small but mighty team. We are a nonprofit. We do get a grant from the provincial government, from the Minister of Agriculture. Minister of Agriculture is the one who oversees this act. They gave us about, they give us 1.27 million every year. This year they came up with another 700,000 to cover just my animal protection services, so my peace officers and the care of animals. But I spend about 3.3 million on that service. So we are almost 90% donor funded, including the enforcement side of things. So just to set the tone a little bit for you there. So first I'm going to say that this Animal Protection Act, Bill 22, is a long time in coming. We were the weakest and the oldest legislation in the entire country. So this is the first update that we've had in 20 years. And really what it does is bring us in line with the rest of the country. So Saskatchewan recently updated their animal welfare legislation, and it really is very similar to what they did in Saskatchewan. I have to put my reading glasses on because I'm an old lady. So we did push for this legislation. I'll be 3 years in my role in September, and one of the things that I did early on with the whole team, Melissa, especially, and my peace officers, was really start asking the government why they hadn't updated this legislation. We also engaged with stakeholders. We met with the Intensive Livestock Working Group, which is, you guys will know who that is, made up of producer groups from across the gamut of livestock and other folks, to just make sure we were pushing for what the community wanted. We didn't want this to just be us. So we really did go in with an idea that we wanted to make this better for all stakeholders. And so Minister Sigurdsson was lovely enough to open it up and to make some changes. So a little bit inside the act. So the definition of distress was really something that we were focused on getting changed. Really what it used to say, or it says until the regulations are written and it comes out in the fall, is that no person shall cause an animal to be in distress. So the old definition of distress was really limited to adequate food, water, shelter, ventilation from space, and protection from injurious heat or cold, and veterinary care. So what's been expanded to is to include the deprivation of adequate light, sanitary conditions, and adequate opportunity for exercise, movement, or the expression of natural behaviors. So it opens up that definition for my officer. So you can imagine they could go to an attached garage with 30 cats in it, which is a real example. And if they had water, shelter, veterinary care, we couldn't do anything about that situation, even though they were living in very clearly unsanitary conditions and ammonia levels were crazy. So now that expands it, so we have a little more leeway with that, and really updates it to what we know most animals need. So it reflect our current understanding of animal needs. Animal care duties, which is what we are all accountable for. So the definition of distress is one thing, describes the situation. Animal care duties lays out what animal caregivers are required to do under the legislation. It really mirrors the definition of distress. So really what it says is that caretakers must ensure the animals have adequate food, water, all the things I just described in the definition of distress. It used to be limited to what the Act said before, and now it includes those things that I said: sanitary conditions, appropriate light, opportunity for exercise, and it also takes into regard the animal species, type, breed, age, and life stage. So that's new, and it really does make things a lot more clear for our peace officers. This is also new. Animal care duties also now talk about transport. We all know, bless you, that there are federal regulations regarding transport. They stand. This just really enhances that. It doesn't doesn't trump that or anything. But really what it says now is that animal care duties include transporting the animal in a manner that ensures the animal's physical safety is taken in consideration, as well as the heat or cold. It also talks about making sure animals have prior acclimatization to the weather. We have a duty now to minimize distress or anxiety, and we have to comply with additional duties set out in regulations, which is the federal regulations. So really, you can imagine that this would be dogs in the back of a pickup or something like that. So it doesn't change anything about transporting livestock. That's federal. it just really enhances what we must do as animal care owners when we're transporting animals. So we talk about generally accepted practices. Those were in the legislation before. They are in the legislation still. It just clarifies what they are. So it used to be, sometimes we know distress is caused to animals, whether it be from routine veterinary practices, husbandry practices, slaughter, and so on. And there's always been an exemption for causing distress in the Act, and that is still in it. The only thing that has changed is it actually calls out now sporting activity, including chuck wagon racing and rodeo. So that was always assumed to be part of generally accepted practices. And what the minister has done is called that out specifically so that we know that distress doesn't apply if it's part of the generally accepted practices. So we know slaughtering an animal can cause distress. That isn't chargeable if you've done everything you can to relieve the distress, and it doesn't violate any of the other language in the Act. So lots of significant updates to the definition of abandonment. It was really unclear before what abandonment was. So we had to wait 24 hours after an animal was abandoned before we could do anything about it, which, as you can imagine, causes a lot of anxiety for that animal and for us. So it's been removed. So there's no more delay in helping animals that have clearly been abandoned. They removed the financial requirement and ambiguity around leaving the animal with someone who agreed to care for the animal. So, people, we have this often, people take their dog to a groomer's or a boarding facility, and then they just abandon it there. And there was all this rigmarole around financial accountability and how long we had to wait and all of that. And so that's really been clarified. And so we can act a lot more quickly. We also have conditions which may cause abandonment, such as arrest, hospitalization, death. We can now intervene a lot more quickly. We get a lot of calls where someone gets evicted from their apartment or they get thrown in jail. And it was really hard for us to intervene and just remove those animals and take them to a different place. And so a lot of that has been clarified. And now it is actually a chargeable offense. It wasn't a chargeable offense to abandon your animal in the past. And now if you have abandoned it, which could lead to distress, we can charge you if we can find you. So that's the tricky part there. And, if you drive your cat to my building, which happens all the time, and you leave it there on a Monday morning and we discover it, that actually wouldn't be chargeable because we are there. So it wouldn't have led to distress. If you leave your dog outside my building on a Friday afternoon of a long weekend and we can find you, we could charge you for that. Same with horses. We find a lot of horses just abandoned out in the woods, in a temporary fencing. And so we can move quickly on those animals now. We still do all the things, reach out to the brand inspectors, try to find everything we can, but it just clarifies things. We have a little bit of broader inspection reach. We always could go to places like auctions without a warrant and inspect them during regular business hours. The legislation used to be animals for sale, hire, or exhibition. We could go and during ordinary business hours and inspect. And now there's an updated list of locations for proactive inspections. So any land, vehicle, or place where services are provided with respect to an animal, including boarding, grooming, and training facilities. So again, these people that might have a boarding facility, we couldn't have just proactively gone in there if we had a complaint. We would have to get a warrant, go through all of that. And now we can go in if you have that kind of facility. It doesn't mean things like feedlots. So just because animals are gathered doesn't mean we can proactively go and inspect. If we get a call of a complaint, we can go. We can either work with that owner to come in and inspect, which a lot of people let us do. If they say no, we still have to go through all the things to get a warrant and do all that work before we can go in. So it does open up the list of our proactive inspections, but it is still limited to boarding, grooming, and training facilities. So the powers of the peace officers are changed a little bit. Again, it used to be the old act required permission or a warrant to enter someone's private dwelling. This doesn't change. We still can't go into somebody's house or farm without a warrant. However, we can now compel the owner or occupant of the private dwelling to bring the animal to the door to assess their condition if we have reasonable grounds to believe an animal is in distress, if they have a corrective action order, which is also a new thing in the Act. our peace officers can now leave a corrective action order with a landowner, animal owner, that says you must do these things to come into compliance. We could leave warning letters before, but they had no teeth. They weren't written in legislation. They wouldn't have held up in court. So now we have corrective action orders. So if you have a corrective action order, we're coming back a week later to see if you've come into compliance. We can ask you to bring that animal to the door, or if you have a prohib order. So after we go to court, if we are successful with charges in court, the most powerful thing that can come of that is court orders or prohibition orders, which says, okay, Patricia Moore, you are no longer allowed to have horses on your property for a lifetime ban. So if you have that court order and I think you have horses, I can go and see if you have those horses. So it really allows us to assess animal distress in a timely fashion while still respecting people's rights and property rights, obviously. So I talked a little bit about prohibition orders. They were very messy and continue to be messy. Again, that's when the court decides that they're going to give someone a prohibition order banning them from owning animals or caring for animals over a set time. We can't enforce them, so we have to get the RCMP to enforce them. So now there's a couple of new things that are really good. We can get a prohibition order without a guilty verdict. We haven't figured out how that's going to work yet, but it's in the legislation. So it divorces the accountability for people to have to go through the court system. And we also have the power now to enforce the court orders without having to bring the RCMP in, which is really helpful to us because everyone knows everyone's resources are very stretched. So we can do that ourselves now. And it also allows us to enforce prohibition orders that from other provinces. So we know a lot of these bad actors. You'll remember April Irving, probably in the Milk River Dogs several years ago. So she got a prohibition order in Alberta. She just would move to Saskatchewan or BC. And we have these people doing this all the time. So now if you have a prohibition order in Saskatchewan that says you're not allowed to have cattle, and you move here to Alberta and you have cattle, I can enforce that. And offenses. Everyone thinks we take animals and make a bunch of money off of taking animals. We don't. We make no money. In fact, it costs us a fortune to do it. And the fines that are imposed in court actually don't come to us. They stay in the court system. So there was a $20,000 fine. That was the maximum in the old act. And now it's a $250,000 fine and a 1-year jail sentence, which there was no jail sentences in the act before. And the act also has guidance for judges on what they may include in the prohibition order, which reduces loopholes. So again, as I said, prohibition orders were a mess. Patricia Moore, who is a real person and a bad actor, regular bad actor, kept getting horses because it said in her prohib order that she couldn't own them. And she would say, well, I don't own them. They're my boyfriend's, or she wasn't allowed to care for them. And she said, I don't care for them. I don't feed them. They're not mine. But they were in her care and she, was not allowed to have horses. So this clarifies a lot of that for us. And I wanted to be quick and overview it. So that's the end of that. I know you're all probably getting hungry, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Board Member Nyberg.
I have quite a few questions, actually. So how many officers you said you had in the province?
11.
Are they all filled officer positions?
I would hire one more in the north central area if I could find one.
But all 11. So what is your contingency? If you had a full slate of officers, how many would you have in the province?
11.
And they're all filled right now?
Yeah.
Okay, because we did have some problems in an incident out here a couple of years ago with the county that we were having some trouble with that.
I'll tell you too, there's only 2 peace officers that are employed by the Alberta SPCA that were here when I started. The rest of the team I've changed.
Okay, no, and that's good. That is part of it. The other issue that I guess that I would take issue with is who does your oversight? Like who, peace officer X comes in, deals with myself. Who do I have? Where is my opportunity to
complain?
Yeah.
Yep. So you can complain to us, and then it's investigated by the Director of Animal Protection Services, who's beholden by Solgen to do a very detailed investigation. And
that's employed by you?
Yep. And then if you're not happy with that, you go to Solgen and Solgen investigates it. And that's the same for all peace officers in the province.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said there was also, you now can put in a, without, if you back up a couple of slides, there was, you can put in a no, without a court order? No, back, two forward. Without a need for a guilty verdict. Is
Yeah.
that not a little bit overreach in the fact that you're innocent until proven guilty?
Yes.
That
and
puts a lot of that puts a lot of power in the hands of your officers. And the biggest problem that I have with this new act is that there is so much ambiguous language. What your officers have is a very authoritarian power, in my opinion, because if they feel, and I am emphasizing, if they feel that this is an issue, they can lay charges. And that's where I have some problem, and I have had problems with in the past, that it goes on feelings, and I don't think that's something we should be dealing with.
I would argue that it absolutely doesn't. So they have to prove distress. We take veterinarians with us who look for those. And I would argue that my peace officers, again, they're beholden by Solicitor General to uphold the legislation. And I wouldn't accept anyone coming to me and saying, I feel like they're in distress. We have a very rigorous process with, my director of animal protection services, an ex-Calgary police officer. And he wouldn't stand for that. He'd say, let's see the notes, let's see the pictures, let's see the videos. And that wouldn't hold up in court. No Crown prosecutor is going to say, oh, you feel like they're in distress? Okay, because we all know Crowns have two things they look for, right? Reasonable chance of winning, and is it in the public interest? And we take things to them all the time and they get kicked out.
And that's where I say the seek issued probation order without.
I don't know how that's going to work.
And I'm not blaming you.
Yeah.
I am talking about.
Yeah, we don't know how that's, we're going to see the regulations. I'm going to imagine it's probably someone who's a repeat offender. So I'm going to talk about Patricia Moore all day because she's a bad person. Sorry if you're all friends or cousins with her, but she's a bad person. She keeps getting horses. She's breeding for Overo paints. So she has babies born with fatal white, and we have to euthanize them. She leaves animals in distress. Their hooves are this long, they're skinny, they have no water, they have no shelter. So we keep going. We actually charged her civilly and got a civil court order, sued her civilly, so that we don't even have to they don't have to be in distress anymore. We can go take our horses away from her because she's such a bad actor. So I'm going to bet that she's already been found guilty on animal offenses in the past, and I don't have to go through court again to lay another court order because she's now got dogs. That's what I'm guessing. But we don't want to have to take animals, so we're not going to feel like your cows are in distress and take them, because that costs me a fortune. It doesn't actually make me money to take animals. It costs me a lot. If you remember, I said $3.3 million is my APS budget, and I get less than $2 million from the province. So I'm not in the business. I'm not built in an ark, If we go, and that's why the corrective action orders are a good thing too. So if we go and we say, look, you don't have enough shelter, you got 300 cows and you got one hedgerow or one, edge of a barn, I need you to throw some shelters up. And we go back in 2 weeks and they have, good job, thank you very much. If they haven't, then we want to do something about that, right? Right now, the act is actually way more ambiguous than it's going to be.
I don't disagree.
We have two options right now.
Is that I don't know if
it sounds like you had a bad experience with a peace officer that I've probably fired.
No, actually, I haven't.
Okay.
I've gone well.
Melissa wants to jump in.
I've had good opportunity to have with peace officers. I haven't had issue with that.
Leanne?
Where I've had is the act is where I'm having problem with. In some cases, I don't think they went far enough and made it clear enough.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think there's the checks and balances that need to fix it. So that's my concern.
Melissa has a point.
Yeah, I was just going to say this also really helps in those cases where we don't have those two things that Leanne had mentioned, the reasonable chance of prosecution, or if it's in the public interest. So if you can imagine maybe an older lady suffering with mental health, she has 80 cats and she keeps getting them. We don't need to prosecute her. We don't need to take her into court to get that prohibition so that she can't have animals. We can separate that and not, take people that maybe shouldn't be.
We can give her a piece of paper that says, Mrs. Jones, you are not allowed to have cats anymore.
But we don't need to,
We don't need to take her to
Prosecute
court and
her.
get her
Yeah.
charged and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good example. Or Mr. Jenkins, who we do have a prohib order on because he had so many dead cows in his house. He's clearly suffering from mental illness. So do I want to charge him again and take him to court? Not necessarily. Can I get another prohib on him? Maybe. Sorry, you guys know that guy?
I have a
Board
dead
member.
cow in my basement.
Okay.
On the floor?
The smirk that you recognized was my inside voice making an inappropriate joke where I have a dead cow in my house at all times. I just store it in a deep freeze.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
We're not going to charge you with that.
My biggest concern, and I agree, it was due for an update. And I mean, when you get out into rural areas, the responsible livestock owners want the book thrown against the abusers. Like, there is zero patience for that. There are some farmers that may be more protective of their livestock than most people. But and this is the problem, it's not your problem, it's the way government works. Without the regulations giving that detailed
Yeah.
info on how this is going to be handled,
Yeah.
there's this fear of the unknown right now. The regulations might be great.
I haven't seen him either.
The regulations might be terrible.
Yeah.
And by the time they come out, it's too little too late. And that's the fear
Yeah.
of not having that known factor
I agree.
and using subjective terms to be determined later.
I would argue that it's a lot less subjective now. It's a lot clearer. We're waiting for the regs too. I know they're doing some stakeholder engagement on the regs. We haven't been invited to that. I will say that I talk to the chief provincial veterinarian, Dr. Keshwani, every day. He asks us questions. I ask his questions. I have worked for government, but I have a lot of faith in the public servants, and Dr. Keshwani being one, that he is, I think, going to do the right thing. It's all, I can only hope. And we're going to do what we can do when we get the regulations.
Board Member Hunter.
Quick question. So those meat horses were
Yeah.
shipping on an airplane, and we know the end result. How is that allowed?
Ask the federal government. I can't even inspect at the airport. People get upset about people eating horses, which I don't have a right to tell anyone what they should eat. People get upset because they're on the plane. Call Nancy Southern, ask how horses get to her Grand Prix jumping events. It's on a plane. I know that Alberta Equine Federation is doing a study into the welfare of the animals on the plane. Jennifer Woods is part of that. She's the one who inspects it. But that's a federal government issue. My bigger concern, I'm going to be honest with you, is Bovary closing the plant at Fort Macleod. Because now if I seize 18 horses, I might have been totally willing to take them to the mart and have a meat buyer buy them and take them to Bovary and process them, humanely euthanize them and process them. I can't do that now because those horses are still going to get bought by a meat buyer and they're going to go to Quebec. And I don't think that that's a better result for a horse to stand on a trailer to go to Quebec.
You said Quebec, or is it China?
So the international ones go to Japan and Japan? Yeah. But there's a domestic market for horse meat. And there was a plant at Fort Macleod that has closed. So now there's going to be there are hundreds of unwanted horses in the province. They're all over. There's feedlots full of them. And now if they go to the mart to be processed for meat, they're going to stand on a truck and go to Quebec. And you could argue, how's that different from cattle we ship to Quebec? There's all kinds of regulations for the truckers to stop, let them off, do that. I don't believe they do that all the time. So what are we going to do with all these hundreds of unwanted horses? I don't have a problem with people eating horse meat. I can't tell people what to eat, what not to eat. People don't eat pork all over the world. I'm not going to tell them they can't do that. Is it humane for them to be transported on a plane? I don't know. No, it's inspected. I know it's inspected.
It was more the end result when they end up in China and how they get force fed and the condition they're living. But I mean, I see 6 liners going by my place on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah,
They're heading to the airport.
It's the CFIA. That's the CFIA. I can't even go to the airport and inspect where they are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Board Member Nielsen.
Hi. I just wonder if I could give a scenario. Like, to me, the overwhelming comment I've heard from other producers is has to do with shelter. So if you have, and we even seen a comment on the local Stettler Facebook group about this yesterday with some horses by town. If you have land that in the summer has no trees on it, because there's some land around here that never had a tree on it from the beginning of time, and it's in, say, 30 plus 30 day, is that something that a peace officer can get engaged in?
Yep. Adequate shelter. And it doesn't have to be trees or a barn or a physical building. If you read the NFAC codes, there's all kinds of definitions of shelter. You get in the far south and people have cattle in their shelter as coolies, right? And that's okay if it does provide shelter. We hold up the NFAC codes, National Farm Animal Care codes, as best practices. They're not embedded in legislation in this province. They are in some provinces, but we do hold them up as best practices. So we can go out to that producer and say, you need to figure out some shelter for your horses, be that you buy some and put them up, be that you open the gate so that they can access different trees, different whatever, but you need to find some shelter for your horses. So we can absolutely act on that. Again, I just
Are horses and cattle treated different? Like,
no,
if you go out to a, take especially south of Hannah, between Hannah and Brooks, there's not a tree anywhere for 100 miles, and are then we going to expect those some sort of man-made shelter on those vast expanse of land?
No, and I had a good conversation with Brad at Alberta Beef Producers about this, because that was his question too. And the landscape can be shelter, right? Like I said, coulees, hills, valleys. We all know if you go down under a little valley on my property, it's a lot cooler when I go down into this coulee than it is over there. So, but if we go and we don't think there's adequate shelter for those animals, then that's when we talk to the producer about figuring out how to get them shelter, right? But shelter isn't defined by a physical building all the time, or trees.
Board Member Stevens.
Because there's a lot of flat land
Then I would argue that if he's a good steward or she's a good steward, she should be finding shelter for those animals. Figuring it out.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Stevens.
So previously, the definition was fairly narrow.
Yeah.
Food, water, shelter.
Yeah, and veterinary care.
Yeah, and now the scope has been broadened.
Yep.
There is also a concern, because there's been some concerns raised about overreach. From the other side, I have a lot of concerns about many of our urban neighbors with less knowledge.
Yeah.
Now that the scope has been broadened out so that a complaint can be made for a variety of additional reasons, do you think that you have sufficient staff to keep up with what may end up being you inundated with nuisance complaints?
Yeah, we get a ton of them now too.
And we've all seen it.
The other new thing in the act is actually vexatious, right? So if you are complaining about your neighbor because you hate your neighbor, you can be charged with that now, where you couldn't before. So vexatious complaints are in the act now. Nuisance not. So if you're driving by and you think, geez, those black and white cows sure look skinny to me, and you don't know the difference between a dairy cow and a beef cow, and you call us, we're not going to charge you for that. But the small holds I do worry about, because they're not part of the verification, like Alberta milk, Alberta pork, Alberta beef all have verification, right? You're a good producer, you meet all these standards, we know you're registered with us. But I'll give you an example. A guy bought 4 acres next to my quarter section, no clue, had chickens and goats before I worked in this capacity. And we said, you're only out here on weekends. What are you going to do with your chickens and goats? And they'll be okay. They eat grass. They'll do, and we thought, oh my God. And those are the ones I worry about. So I would rather get a nuisance complaint and have it be not true than, and so there's a lot of work that goes in before my officers actually hit the ground, right? They're going to call, they're going to try and get a hold of the subject that's been complained about. They're going to have a conversation. If they can sort it out that way and it's goofy, then they're not going to go. But to answer your question, do I have enough peace officers? No. Am I going to hire more peace officers when I don't have sustainable funding from the government? No.
And I saw the same post that got a lot of traction yesterday about horses, and it was what I believe to be without cause. Their horses had water and everything else, but I've received complaints personally about over the concerns of my husky being outside. Like, this is the sort of thing that we've broadened it out. And for people that don't have knowledge of these animals or what is on that facility, I think we are going to be inundated with a ton of nuisances that will have to be investigated and take away from the actual people that deserve enforcement.
You have peace officers or bylaw officers here?
Peace officers.
Oh, so they can enforce the APA? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Melissa wants me to tell you other provinces already done it. Saskatchewan, this is basically a repeat of Saskatchewan's legislation. And they seem to be handling it okay. I've hired 3 peace officers now from Saskatchewan, very well trained and lots of great experience, with livestock. I've hired 2 from Ontario, also have lots of great experience. And yeah, so I feel, are they overrun? So we've had, in the month of July, to July 1st to the 21st, we had 300 calls. So we get a lot of calls, and it's on my officers to determine, to triage. You know, we get on a 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we got a down bull. That's an emergency. We go to that, right? We get huskies outside overnight. Okay, well, I'm going to triage that. And when next time I'm in Stettler, I'm going to drive by and see if that's the case. But they're not going to rush out because they got a call that your husky was outside overnight. My officers aren't.
And maybe this is unfair to compare, but locally, we have a pretty good relationship with our RCMP and our local detachment and our staff sergeant. And we think that they're doing a very good job with the services that they have available. But they have 5 vacancies currently.
Yeah.
I mean, between the hard and soft vacancies. And in my mind, it's jumping to conclusions. We're heading down that same road now where we've broadened the scope. We expect these increased powers to be used responsibly. And I have no doubt that that's your intention. To use that responsibly, it takes time to do proper investigations.
What do you think has increased in my powers?
So, I mean, one that was identified was prohibition without court. A broadened scope as to what would be considered a violation, because it was food, water, shelter, vet services.
And now it's behavior. So if a horse is penned up in a box stall and never gets outside and doesn't have any companions, it's going to have some behavior issues, right? Anxiety.
And environmental, that was another one that was added. So those two can be very broad and very subjective. And they might be very legitimate complaints. If an animal is in a chute and cannot move or lie down for days on end, I would say we throw the book at this person. Something is drastically wrong here. But the only way for you to determine that is
going out and seeing
a thorough investigation. So the scope that you will be investigating has, in theory, broadened without any measurable increase. And I fear that there will be a bottleneck on getting responsible investigations done in a timely fashion, where the egregious ones will get missed and you will get inundated with
it's
complaints that.
So what I'm going to ask you to do is write to the new Minister of Agriculture and tell her that she needs to fund us appropriately so that we don't have the bottleneck. We also work really closely with bylaw partners, RCMP. Like if we can't get to Grand Prairie, we call the police up there or the CPOs and they go for us. So because we can't go everywhere, I have a small team in a big province. So we rely heavily on our partners to help us out with this stuff. But I'm not disagreeing with you. I think the updates are worth potential bottleneck.
And to answer your question, the biggest, I think, problem for your scope is the accessibility now.
Yeah.
You have had now limited access to many places. Your expectation to be at those places is going to heavily increase, which is going to tax the hourly time of your officers to be at all these different, well, it says in the mandate that you're supposed to be inspecting these guys. So
We're not
that's my
supposed to
first
be.
question.
We can be. So
Well,
we're not going to go proactively.
I'm saying that I'm the public saying that. I'm not saying that that's what the rules are. What I'm saying is the public says, they read it and they say, you're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
That's a difference. That's why I asked my first question, how many officers you had and
Yeah. And I do think, and again, we can. The bottom line message is, and I hope you share this with your publics, is if I take 0 animals next year, I consider that a success because we've rectified the situation where education before enforcement, and it costs me a fortune to take animals. So we're not proactively coming to take anybody's animals. We are looking for the bad actors, those bad guys. And before, I'll use Airdrie. EJ's was a boarding facility, horrific. She wouldn't let us in. We couldn't go in, and we had to get a warrant. And finally, we went in with RCMP. But now, because she's a boarding agency, we can go in between the hours of 9 to 5 and see if the complaints are legitimate. Are we going to get lots of calls to do that? Maybe. Is it going to be upon us to triage? Absolutely.
Okay, we do need to conclude, but if Board Member Stevens wants.
This is hopefully a quick question. Do you have the authority to investigate on reservations?
Yeah. So the act applies to the nations, but we have to either be invited on by RCMP or by leadership. So we can't just walk on because it's federal land. Yep, big problem.
Okay.
But just because there are dogs on the res and they look different than your husky at home doesn't mean they're in distress.
So I think we'll conclude.
Always.
Yeah. Thank you both.
Yeah, we appreciate the opportunity. Really appreciate
we've
it.
got a better understanding of the bill and also SPCA's role. So it's been quite educational. So thank you.
Pets live here. If emergency responders come to your house and you have an animal, they know it's in there.
Okay.
If you have an animal in your house.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And some annual reports and some of the newsletters that talk about the act.
Okay.
Which I'm going to thank Alan for pointing out the spelling error.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks,
again.
guys.
All right. I guess we'll conclude. Are you sticking around at all?
No, we're going to go visit one of our shelter partners, but thank you for the invite. Again, we're open to all the questions. Please keep sending them. If you hear stuff that you think is weird or wrong, Alan has my direct phone number. We want to hear about stuff that's working, not working. If you have a bad experience with any of my staff, I want to hear about it directly because I take that very seriously. And let me know how things are going out here.
And no change for the people that are doing
it. The good people don't need to worry about it.
It's really to target the people.
Yeah.
Thank you
very
again.
much.
Thanks for
guys.
coming.
Safe travels.
I better take my cheat sheet so you can't read my notes. There's all kind of secret stuff in here I didn't tell you.
See you.
That was a joke.
All right. We've got a long agenda here, or quite a few items left. And we have lunch and we have a MPC meeting. Does it have to start at 1? Okay. Yes.
That's why we typically in the past have always recessed and then started again in the afterwards, but we can't today because.
All right. So with the time restrictions in mind, Rob, is there something here that we need to get to, or can these items be moved for Well, the decision around 8.3 needs to be made. So that's one item. What else might we,
What was 8.4?
sorry, the survey.
Right.
Reminder of that as well. Thank you. So Rob, if we covered 8.3 and 8.4,
I think,
8.3
yeah,
is
I
the-
think it'd be good. Because the other,
If I could, Mr. Chair, I think 7.7 has already been covered. We've dealt with that. So you could check that one off the list.
has it? I'll ask, I guess, Andrew and.
Yeah, as long as the board is just content with what's already been voiced previously, that, you know, we would like the authority to direct workshops within the existing budget. That's already been mentioned to council, and
Is there any action here, a motion or anything that's needed regarding
I
that?
think at the prior meeting we had enough action to make that happen.
My thoughts on that were to open it up a little more for any expenditures that council approved within that annual budget. So, for example, if we had to purchase an updated spray equipment or a new ASB rental item, if council approved that within our annual budget, when you brought back the RFD with 3 quotes and we chose one, I don't think it should have to go through both. So
In the light of
Member
time,
Nyberg?
just have that discussion at council. You're fine. I think you've got the board's input.
Okay. Thank you. 8.3, request for decision cancellation of the August 19th meeting. So it's in front of us here. We thought we were going to get through this material, but I think, Rob, your suggestion was that we completely cancel it. Is that your recommendation?
yeah, we have some vacation time coming up. We have pest surveys, inspections, things like that.
I'll make the motion that we cancel August 19th, 2026 meeting for the Ag Service Board.
Any further discussion? If not, vote. All in favor? Lance, you're in favor? Yep.
Mr. Chair, again, if it pleases you, the Lacombe Research Facility, I think we've also discussed 8.1 quite thoroughly already. So if we could move that one forward, take it off your agenda.
And we have what needs to be done to close that from this agenda, receive that for information.
I'll give you that motion, receive it for information.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Might as well do the last two, 8.2, the drone demonstration.
Yeah, it'll take a
Okay.
sec. Yeah, we have
Okay.
had an opportunity to have a free drone demonstration. I'm thinking probably out at Bridges Pit or somewhere where we have some crazy obstacles or whatever. I just keep you guys updated on what the dates and things look like. It was more for information. That's
Would we make that a public event and allow?
that was going to be part of the question if we wanted to advertise, but then we wouldn't have it there. I'd have to do something different. It would have to be like in a pasture or something. And we'd do a different demonstration. But
Board Member Stevens?
I'm open to having it public, but not at our pits.
yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, if it was at the pit, it would be us. If it was public.
Board Member Nyberg?
Mr. Chair, I think there is a million opportunities for you to go see a drone demonstration. We don't need to do it for the public. There is guys selling these things on a regular basis that will come out and do it. This would be just for the edification of what it can do for our capacity. Specifically, I would just open it to council and Ag Service Board member or any person that would be in the county's preview that would like to go to it. So
not advertised as public, but we'd accept a few people to come by with us. Okay. Is that Rob? Does
Yeah,
that?
because I did really want to try it out at the gravel pit, to be honest.
Yes,
That's for
yeah.
safeties and
Board Member Stevens?
I'll give you a motion to receive for information.
Any more discussion? Looks like, Lance, are you okay with receive that for information, that item? Yep. Okay. And we've talked about the cancellation and now the survey.
Mr. Chair, again, just in the sense of time, everybody's got the survey. I would encourage everybody to go on there, fill it out, and I think we can look at it. You don't need Mr. Klatt to hold our hand to put this through, so I'll take that as a receive for information motion.
We have a motion. All in favor? Carried. All right, that takes us through that. We have some correspondence. Any discussion on that item?
I'll just give you a motion to receive for information on the correspondence items.
We have a motion. All in favor? Carried, unanimous. Finance?
I'll
Okay.
make
Yeah,
a
nothing.
motion to table this to the next ASB meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to table the finances till the next ASB meeting. Go
I
ahead.
think it goes without saying because it's a standing order on your council table, so you don't have to table it, or your ASB board chat package.
I think it's worth tabling because you shouldn't receive it for information
Okay.
and you should.
Yeah, fair
do
enough.
something
Okay.
with
So we have
it.
a motion to table finances. All in favor?
Mr. Chair,
Unanimous. Okay. Oh, Rob.
Just on the pasture rejuvenation one.
Oh, we
Just-
skipped one.
Just so I can have it
7-6.
on the record that,
Yeah.
let you guys know. Open Farm Days is August 15th and 16th. I spoke with Wallaby Ag, and she can work with those 2 dates. So you guys will see something come out or whatever. But that's where we're going to line up the pasture rejuvenation workshop. So I think that should be a go ahead. So just heads up.
I'll give you a motion to receive that for information 7.6. Sorry, skipped that one.
All in favor? Thanks, Lance. All right. Was there anything else that we?
You do have on the agenda the 11.1, 11.2, just that they were recognized. I'll give you a motion to receive those as information because they are on them.
Okay. All in favor?
I'll give you a motion for adjournment.
All in favor?